George, why do we keep doing these military movies? Are you longing for the days you were in the Navy and arresting people?
One of our patrons picked those military films, and we owed him those since he was signed up to get those benefits. That's the first thing. The second thing, I picked this movie, but you also saw it and would have put it on the list yourself. Third thing, I hadn't thought about my time in the Navy much until recently when I had a freaking conversation where I was like, I've lost a shit ton of weight. Jesus Christ, I wish I knew how to do that when I was still in the Navy. I could be getting a pension right now. Fourth thing, I never arrested anybody when I was in the Navy. I wasn't assigned to shore patrol.
You weren't?
No. I repaired electrical systems in my ship's nuclear reactor plant.
Are you sure about that?
Pretty sure. Yeah.
How about going into a public bathroom and beating up Marines? How much of that did you do?
None of it. I never went into the bathroom and beat up a Marine. And just because I know how your mind works, I didn't do anything else in a bathroom with a Marine either.
Well, if you say so, George.
No, not if I say so. I didn't fight Marines. I didn't take anyone to jail. Yes, I was in the Navy, but I didn't do any of the stuff that happens in this movie.
You didn't go to a whorehouse?
Okay, I did that.
Welcome to Does This Still Work? The podcast looks at all movies and asks, does this still work? I'm Joe Dixon.
And I'm George Romacka. And today we're discussing The Last Detail from 1973 and some historical context. First, podcasty stuff. You can reach us at dtswpod@gmail.com, on Facebook, Letterboxd, and on our YouTube channel. Joe is on Blue Sky at joedixon.bsky.social. Please tell your friends about us, even the ones who have been kleptomaniacs for way longer than you've known them, and leave 5-star ratings everywhere. You can pick what we watch and get extra per episode content by funding us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/dtswpod. Now, Joe, take us back to 1973.
Before I do that, it occurs to me, maybe we should have a whole series of just last movies, like Last Dance, Last Detail. How many last movies do you think there are?
I mean, you put together themed patrons' choice lists all the time.
It's true.
You can just do that.
Maybe Last will do. Anyway, let's
Last
start.
Action Hero.
Yes. Last of the Mohicans.
Uh-huh. The Last Samurai.
Yes.
All right, that's enough of that shit.
And that's the way it was.
Jesus Christ, 2 of those lasts are basically cultural appropriation.
Yeah, true. All right, now here is some quick trivia, ladies and gentlemen. According to Wikipedia, this film broke the record for the most uses of the word fuck at the time of its release. They say fuck at least 65 times, and it really says something about me that I honestly did not notice. It didn't seem out of the ordinary.
I mean, it didn't seem out of the ordinary to me either, but I cuss like a sailor because I fucking was one.
Because you were in this, yeah. So you're like, this is what sailors talk. That's not unusual.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do a little history. Normally, I like to stick to locations, but today, I'm just going with stories involving sailors wherever they happen to be in 1973.
Okay.
That kind of rhymed, didn't it? Wherever they happen to be in 1973.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, no, not a little bit. It literally fits the textbook definition of a rhyme. They have the same ending syllable, yes.
Indeed. All right, let's start here. This is from the Ithaca Journal. Headline, George.
12 sailors transferred.
I'm going to read. 12 sailors assigned to the unit which controls President Nixon's yacht, the Sequoia, have been transferred after some of them were discovered smoking marijuana, the Navy reported Friday. The incident marks the second time in 3 weeks that Navy men assigned jobs to the president have been investigated for marijuana use. We should be smoking joints while I read this, don't you think? That would have been perfect.
No, we shouldn't. I did start smoking weed earlier this year, and I just finished losing the fucking weight that got me.
All right, back to the story. The initial investigation, the Navy said, indicates the sailors were caught smoking marijuana away from Sequoia during their off-duty hours. So what's the problem?
Right?
On May 8th, the Navy disclosed that 28 Marines and 18 sailors, I thought you guys didn't hang out together, 28 Marines and 18 sailors assigned to the presidential retreat at Camp David, Maryland, were being reassigned pending an investigation into charges that some were smoking marijuana.
All right, so most of this article is just sailors smoked marijuana, sailors smoked marijuana, sailors smoke marijuana.
And apparently they like it.
Uh-huh, no shit.
And something smoking with Marines, which I didn't know that happened. I thought you boys beat each other up in the bathroom. I didn't know you guys got together and smoked some ganja. That's nice. Bring some bread with the Marines.
And Marines hate when you say this, but technically the Marines are under the Department of the Navy.
Yes, I've always been confused about that because that seemed like where they were, but I don't know. All right, now here's some more trivia. Hal Ashby, this movie's director, got busted in Canada for pot possession while looking at locations for this film. I don't know if you know this is George, but a lot of this was filmed in Canada with the Canadian Navy because the U.S. Navy wouldn't let the movie crew play with their toys.
Not that there's a lot of Navy actual equipment or anything in this movie.
Well, the locations, I guess. They wanted to look military-like.
Most of them are just places in the U.S.
They still shot in Canada. What do you want me to say?
Yeah.
Anyway, weed is still frowned upon in the military, right, George? You can still get over that?
As far as I know.
Yeah. And you didn't engage when you were there, right?
No.
Did you know any sailors who did?
No.
We were good boys.
Tested fairly regularly.
Ah, yeah, that probably slows things down. Before we pick our next story, I have to leave 1973 and go to an earlier time. That is 1972. What happened in 72? There was a race riot aboard the USS Kitty Hawk. From Wikipedia, the USS Kitty Hawk riot was a racial conflict between white and black sailors aboard the United States Navy aircraft carrier Kitty Hawk on the night of October the 12th to the 13th, October 1972, while positioned at Yankee Station on the coast of North Vietnam during the Vietnam War. This is me now. Only blacks were charged in this case, even though, at least according to Wikipedia, the white sailors were racist as fuck. To say nothing of at least one guy caught on tape committing perjury about the incident. And the congressional subcommittee that investigated this incident released a report that was racist as hell. All that is in Wikipedia if you folks are interested in reading it. And just look up the USS Kitty Hawk riot. I have to say, I never heard of any of this. Are you familiar with it, George?
Nope.
Okay, with that background set, let's leap back to 1973. This is brought to us from The Independent, a publication out of Long Beach, California. Headline, George.
Black sailors' arguments persist in riot's wake.
Quoting from the article, just after the racial disruptions aboard the Navy carriers Kitty Hawk and Constellation last fall, black sailors listed many complaints. Foremost among them was a charge that they did not get equal treatment under the Navy's system of justice. They argued that punishment for them was often more severe than it was for whites. They said they were punished when whites were not. And they charged that prejudice was often a factor in the disposition of accusations against them. End quote. Now, George, when you were in the service, did you notice any racial incidents? And how many did you personally cause?
0 and 0. But I have no problem believing the black sailor's testimony here.
You didn't see any sort of everybody was cool back in your time in the Navy and the military service? People controlled themselves?
Yeah, I was in the Navy in the 2000s. Navy comes down pretty hard on shit like that nowadays. It tends to be prejudicial to good order and discipline to have racial discord in your ranks.
Well, considering that you love the use of the N-word, how did that work on the ship? Or did you not use it there?
I did not use it there. I used that for a very specific amount of time, all of which I think you knew me for.
Oh, you shared it for me? Oh, that's so sweet. You waited until you met me to say, okay, now I can use this word.
I didn't say it was great. I didn't say I was correct to do that or anything. It just happened to overlap.
Here's a quick racial thing I'll give you. I probably discussed this with you before, but here's the thing. When you have a lot of white friends, as you know I do, the white people will say very interesting things to you. They either, one, think it's okay to suddenly use slurs around me for some reason, even though I never invite it, and I don't use the words myself. For some reason, people think, oh, I cannot talk this way. I'm like, no, you can't. And number two is that there is a certain white person out there who's positive black people get into all this free shit. Or they think that I can, I would say sometimes I have some problem at work, and they think, well, you can just sue them for racial discrimination. That's the easiest thing in the world to do. It's they would count hours and tons of money. But they're certain, oh, you can just do that. It's like snapping your finger. It's hilarious. But that's my relationship with white people.
White people be wrong a lot.
Oh, you know my favorite story? This didn't happen to me personally, but I read it online. This woman was hanging out with a friend of hers, and they were talking about the college loans. And he was saying, oh, I really can't, afford it you can. And she said, what do you mean I can afford it? Well, you don't have to pay loans, right? Because you're black. You get to go to school for free. And she's like, do other white people think that? No, we don't get free. Who thinks we go to college for free?
Not me.
Unless you get a scholarship or something. No, why would you? Oh, I'm black. All right, fine. You can go to Harvard now. Oh, Lord. Okay. And finally, we can't leave the History Corner without one story about a guy sentenced to hard labor. This story found in the Hartford Courant. Headline, George.
Sailor who balked, given prison term.
A U.S. Navy sailor was sentenced to 45 days imprisonment at hard labor Monday for disobeying an order during mine-sweeping operations off the coast of North Vietnam, the Navy said. The sailor airman apprentice Dole M. Cunningham, 19, of Sweetwater, Texas, was the 8th sailor to be sentenced in connection with an incident last March 31st. Cunningham was also fined $100 a month for 4 months and demoted to airman recruit by a 4-member special military court-martial at the U.S. Subic Bay Naval Base 50 miles north of Manila. End quote. All I can say about this is, and maybe I'm wrong, but if 8 guys are disobeying an order, I suspect maybe something was wrong with the order. What do you think, George?
I mean, given this article, I can't... What I'm imagining is these guys were ordered to, go touch that mine. And they were like, fuck you, I'm not going to touch that mine. And they all got fucking prison for it. That's what I'm imagining. And I can't... And I think I'm probably right.
Something was going on there, because why would they just disobey the order? 8 of them, not just one guy. They all no way, man.
Right?
Gotta mean something, but I don't know any further. Folks, if you do know anything further about this story, please share it with us. Okay, George, tell us about The Last Detail.
Okay. This was directed by Hal Ashby.
And for the podcast, we've seen his work at Harold and Maude and Being There, and I've seen his work in Shampoo and The Landlord.
This was written by Daryl Paniskin. He wrote the novel the film is based on. This was also written by Robert Towne,
whose work we've seen in Chinatown and Bonnie and Clyde. And I've seen his work in McCabe and Mrs. Miller, The Parallax View, Shampoo, and Mission Impossible 2.
Blurbs. IMDb says 2 Navy men are ordered to bring a young offender to prison, but decide to show him one last good time along the way. That's incorrect. They show him more than one good time. Amazon says, returning back to the U.S. with a criminal in tow, Navy lifers turn their prison escort of a kleptomaniac into a profane and raucous government-paid vacation. What? I don't even know where they got returning back to the U.S. with a criminal in tow.
What?
That's just not in the... There's nothing about that. Makes no sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
YouTube. Let's just move on, because fuck it.
They're in the U.S. the entire time.
Mm-hmm. YouTube says 2 sailors are selected to escort a young, emotionally withdrawn recruit from their West Virginia base to a prison in Massachusetts for stealing from the polio charity box. Won over by the young recruit's bumbling ways and the difficulty of his plight, 2 hardened sailors show him a good time before his long stay in the brig. And YouTube gets it fucking wrong, too. Number 1, he's not a recruit. He was a seaman. He was out of boot camp on a ship. He was no longer a recruit. Second, their base was in Virginia, not West Virginia.
That's right, yeah.
Holy fuck, 3 blurbs, all of them fucking wrong.
And I believe the prison is in Maine, not Massachusetts.
Yeah,
that's what
it is.
Portsmouth is in Maine. Okay.
Uh-huh. There's also a Portsmouth, Virginia, which is right across the bay from Norfolk, so that had me fucked up for a second.
Huh?
But I had to look it up. And oh no, okay, Portsmouth, because there's a lot of Portsmouths, it turns out. Oh,
is there? Okay.
Yeah.
Also, the whole line, the 2 hardened sailors show him a good time before he folks stay in the brig, sounds like a whole other plot.
Yep.
Let's show him a good time, pal. All right, let's...
Sounds a lot more Midnight Cowboy than it should.
Yes, yes.
The film opens with unceremonious credits over a black background with a typical military march snare drum cadence. At the Transient Personnel Barracks in Norfolk, Virginia, a young sailor has been tasked with finding and collecting 2 petty officers to have them report to the Master at Arms.
Why is he a Master at Arms? Is he really good at a fire play?
That's just a position. I'm pretty sure it had something to do with being in charge of the weapons on a vessel.
Makes sense.
You're not going to ask me what Transient Personnel Barracks are?
What's Transient Personnel Barracks?
Transient Personnel Barracks are where you stay when you don't have orders to go anywhere yet. Your previous tour of duty is over, but you don't have new orders yet, so you are now just transient personnel, which means you stay in these barracks until somebody tells you what the fuck to do.
How long could that last?
It can last a while. I was transient personnel for 2 weeks after boot camp. Something happened, I forget what. I think it was medical, but I missed out at, I was 2 weeks late getting to my nuclear field training. I didn't go through with any of the people I went to boot camp with because I got held back for 2 weeks in transient prison. So we cleaned shit for 2 weeks. The first petty officer is Signalman First Class Billy Badass Badusky. He's in the lounge, hungover, and he gives the messenger a hard time before washing his mouth out with beer and getting his ass in gear.
Badusky is played by Jack Nicholson. For the podcast, we've seen in Chinatown, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Anger Management, Batman, Terms of Endearment, and Easy Rider.
This show is a Jack Nicholson fan.
Some of those we hated a whole lot.
Yep.
But you'll have to listen to previous episodes to get what those were. Anyway.
Others of those we thought were really fucking good.
Yeah, some of those we thought were really good. But not Anger Management, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Okay, anyway. I see his work in The Departed, Mars Attacks, Wolf, A Few Good Men, Broadcast News, The Witches of Eastwick, Pritzi's Honor, The Shining, Carnal Knowledge, 5G Pieces, and The Little Shop of Horrors, the 1960 original version. By the way, I could have sworn we saw The Shining for the podcast. I'm really surprised we haven't.
Nope. And I've seen him in As Good as It Gets.
Which, I don't know if I've told you this, was filmed where I used to live.
Huh. The second petty officer is Gunner's Mate First Class Richard Mule Mulhall, and he's ironing his t-shirts in the laundry room. I ironed a lot of shit. I never ironed my fucking t-shirts.
Maybe he wants a very neat-looking t-shirt.
Guess so. He also gives the messenger a hard time before getting his ass in gear. And Mulhall is played by Otis Young.
That was not the initial actor they wanted. They wanted another guy, and I'm sorry I don't remember his name at the moment, but he is the first black actor to get a Best Supporting Actor nomination. And they were all ready for him to appear in this thing, and then he got terminal cancer. So that ended both his appearance in this film and his career.
And his life, eventually.
And his life, eventually, yes.
Wow, I don't know why I said that like that.
Hey, you're getting more and more like me. That's what I would have said.
The Master-at-Arms is a Master Chief Bosun's mate. We never learn his fucking name. He informs the pair that they are being temporarily assigned as chasers to escort a young former seaman to Portsmouth Naval Prison, which is in Maine. The kid is sentenced to 8 years for stealing $40 from a polio charity contribution box. That happens to be the CO's wife's favorite charity.
The MAA is played by Clifton James. For the podcast, we've seen him in Lone Star and Cool Hand Luke. Second time that's come up. We've both seen him in Superman 2, and I've seen his work in Silver Streak, The Man with the Golden Gun, Live and Let Die, The Untouchables, and David and Lisa. Quick note on The Man with the Golden Gun and Live and Let Die. These are both James Bond movies, and he played the same character in both those movies. Mm-hmm. For some reason, James Bond kept running into this hick sheriff. He was there for comic relief, obviously, but it just made no sense why he was there. It's complete. I mean, you know, James Bond movie is somebody's hanging out with this dumb sheriff in the South. They're like, where the hell did this come from? And for some reason, they liked it so much they put him in 2 different movies.
Well,
that character.
So, on their way to change into their winter dress uniforms, Badusky proposes a plot.
Now we run this little shitbird's ass all the way to the brig, save his per diem and ours, split it, and spend it on the way back home. You know what I mean?
No, explain it to me. What's all this per diem stuff? Why they just...
They're sending you, to go fucking travel. They got to give you... The Navy's going to pay for your lodging and food for that time. So they're going to give you an allowance for every day that you're going to be traveling.
Makes sense.
I mean, civilian fucking companies do that shit all the time, too.
But how could they not tell that he's they're just dragging it out so they won't have to, so they can pocket the rest of the money themselves? When the Navy notices? I don't give a shit. They've
budgeted for X amount of dollars and X amount of days for this thing. If it gets done faster than that, doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Back at the MAA's office, Badusky and Mulhall are issued sidearms and keys to the prisoner's cuffs. The prisoner is one Lawrence M. Meadows. Master Chief decides to take a moment to intimidate the kid before they head off.
You know why they're chasers?
Chasers, sir?
Do you know why they are taking you to the brig?
No, sir.
'Cause they're mean bastards when they want to be, and they always want to be, and you can take my word for it. They aren't about to take any shit from a pussy like you. If they do, they'll get reamed out, and they know it. Why, yes, sir?
They wanted that scene. But there's no fucking way he would have said, no, I don't understand why I'm going to the brig. He would have answered with, because I tried to steal $40 from the polio contribution box.
True, he does know why he's going to the brig. Yeah, the guy should have asked him, do you know why these two guys are taking you? Would be a better question. Well, Meadows is played by Randy Quaid. For the podcast, we've seen him in Brokeback Mountain, a film we both really loved. And we've both seen him in Independence Day. And I've seen him in Kingpin, Guyana Tragedy, the story of Jim Jones, which is a TV movie, Midnight Express, What's Up Doc, The Choir Boys, the first film I ever seen him in, I believe, The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz, and The Last Picture Show.
And I've seen him in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
I've never seen Randy Quaid look so goddamn young. He looks like such a baby. So sad what he became, this like trumping nut job.
Aww. Kinda didn't want to know that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now I do. So fuck this guy. He can die in a fire. A Navy station wagon drives them to the bus station, where they tell Meadows that if he needs to use the bathroom, he has to be escorted. Then they head to the bus, walking past a newsstand.
That detail is really important.
I mean, it kinda is. They sit in the back, and Badusky removes Meadows' cuffs. Along the way, the petty officers ask their prisoner where he got a candy bar that he's munching on. Meadows says he had it with him. That's a lie, but we, the audience, don't really know that yet. From the bus, they head to a train. Along the way, we see Meadows shoplift from another newsstand and then steal carrots from an old lady's shopping cart.
These kids are real klepto.
On the train, the lifers double down on the existence of their nicknames, Mule and Badass. Meadows tells them that he didn't even actually manage to steal the $40 from the donation box, so he's getting a dishonorable discharge and 8 years in the brig for unsuccessfully stealing. They spend a minute coming up with different ways to rub in how unfair that seems before the film becomes self-aware and tells itself to knock it off. Meadows says he got in trouble as a kid for shoplifting. They tell the kid he can get 2 years off for good behavior.
At least we got a long train ride. Man, I sure love trains.
Yeah, beats the shit out of sitting up in shit city, don't it?
Yeah.
Joe, was it here that you texted me and I'm quoting, "Holy shit, does anything actually happen in this movie?"
May have been. I think it was like 20 minutes into the film. Like
This was about 20 minutes into the movie.
Nothing is happening.
Yeah,
and it continues on that level.
So much so that there's like, man, I love long train rides. Fuck you, film. Fuck you. Entertain me. I demand to be entertained. After a while, the kid falls asleep. The movie is that fucking boring.
Even the characters are falling asleep.
And his chasers notice the carrots in his sleeve. They wake him up, and then the first thing to actually happen in the movie happens. He panics and bolts. A passenger helps wrangle him.
The guy can mind his own goddamn business.
Well, where was he going to run? The train was moving.
Yeah, exactly. Where was he going to go?
They get him back to his seat, and he begins crying and describing a life of kleptomania. He'd been stealing things all his life, things he didn't even need. He didn't even need the money he was trying to steal when he got caught.
He just likes stealing.
No, I don't think he liked it so much as he was kind of good at it and just couldn't help himself.
Mm-hmm.
They decide to get off the train in Washington, D.C. to let the kid get some fresh air and calm down. The next train out isn't for a little while, so they grab some food. Badusky tries to get Meadows to grow up a bit by having him send back a burger with insufficiently melted cheese.
You know, it's interesting. I don't know if this scene came first or not, but because there's a famous scene with Jack Nicholson and 5 Easy Pieces where he makes an order and he has and the woman will not follow through on his order. He just wants toast. And she says, "We don't have toast." He said, "Well, do you toast the bread for the chicken sandwich?" And he says, "Yes." So he says, "Well, fine. Give me the 2 breads from that sandwich, hold the chicken, and I'll pay for the whole meal as a chicken sandwich, and I'll just eat the toast." And she says, "Oh, you want to hold the chicken?" And he says, "Yeah, I want you to hold it between your legs." And he throws all the dishes onto the floor. But in this case, he doesn't. He just says, "Take it back." In other words, Jack Nicholson has often abused service workers.
Yeah, holy shit. Now I have to put As Good as It Gets on the list.
Why? Does he abuse them there too?
The whole fucking movie. Arguably. And then the movie makes it all okay, but it's not. Absolutely going on the fucking list now. Holy shit, we need to see it. It needs our treatment. Despite running out of time to catch their train, Badesky insists that they stop for a beer despite Meadows not being of legal age. The bartender correctly insists on IDing them and not serving an underage person. Badesky gets big mad about it and pulls his fucking gun. Well, that creates an untenable situation, so they bail, get a six-pack and drink it in a parking lot, laughing about comic books.
Wow, did you just gloss over a really big part of that scene? Did you not catch it?
What?
The bartender says, I have to serve him, but I gotta have an ID for. Who do you think the him is? He's being racist right there. That's the thing that brought Badowski over the edge. That finally pissed him off.
I missed that. Both times I watched this movie. I think I was glazed over from the rest of it, and I just wasn't fucking paying attention. Good catch, Joe. Holy shit.
Why do you think Mule was upset?
Or I like Badesky a little more now for that. That's good on you. This movie takes a stab at being anti-racist. I mean, it does that later too, in sort of a ironic way. And I catch it then. So they've missed their train by now. So they get more beer in a hotel room. Badesky tries to teach Meadows some semaphore, which, if you don't know what semaphore is, it's using flags and hand positions to send messages across distances to things that are within line of sight.
Okay.
It doesn't work if you're over the horizon or if it's foggy, because you have to be able to see the person.
All right. You never did that yourself, right?
No. My job was down in the bowels of the ship. The only reason I saw daylight was because I was a smoker.
And you also said you like to watch the sparks from the plane.
Yeah. Watching aircraft miss the arresting wire and their arresting hook just skid across the flight deck, leaving a trail of sparks. Always a good show. Always.
Didn't you actually know the guy? There's a famous YouTube clip of a guy jumping out of the way.
Yeah, one of the arresting.
I think the plane broke off.
We had a film crew on board, and they happened to be filming when the arresting cable snapped. One fucking guy with Spider-Man fucking reflexes jumped it twice on the snap and the recoil. One chief had to have his face put back together surgically.
Oh, I didn't see that part.
No, you don't see that part. It's the only time I ever actually had to respond to a mass casualty thing, and we very quickly got the mess decks set up as a triage area.
Okay.
So after he tries to teach Meadows some semaphore, he tries to get Meadows to punch him to teach him how to defend himself because he'll need that skill in the brig. He kills a lamp in the process.
Yeah. And the way he's trying to he could have just said, hey, let's spar a little bit because you may need to do this in prison, rather than just hit me. Come on, just get angry, hit me. What are you doing?
Yeah, this kid's response to anger, things that should make him angry, is to withdraw.
Yeah, he shuts down.
This is a deeply traumatized kid. And I'm saying kid because he's fucking 18.
He is very young.
The next morning, Badesky unilaterally changes their plans, insisting that they go visit Meadows' mother in Camden, New Jersey. They find his childhood home empty. His mother has gone out for the day, according to a neighbor, because it's fucking Sunday. No sign of her, but the place is filthy with empty booze containers all over the place.
Which may explain where his withdrawal stuff comes from.
Yeah.
Mom may have been, and God only knows where Dad is.
Well, no, Dad lives in Seattle, Washington with his new family.
Oh, he said that with his other wife.
Yeah.
That's right. He does mention that his dad's right, is with another woman living outside of New York, out in Seattle somewhere, right?
I gloss over it,
That's
but
right,
on the train ride into Camden, Meadows is pointing, there's the high school I went to.
That's right, yeah.
And Badesky's kind of watching this kid God, this kid's life is just going down the fucking tubes. Back on the train, Badesky suggests that Meadows get his mother to write their congressman. Mulhall shoots that down, which makes Meadows cry. Then, Mulhall has some words for Badesky.
I consider myself in jeopardy with you, man. Understand? In jeopardy. This ain't no farewell party, and he ain't retiring. Understand? He's a prisoner, and we're taking him to the jailhouse. And you have a tendency to forget that. You're a menace, man. You ain't no simple shit badass. You're a motherfucking menace. And from now on, MA can go piss up a rope. You ain't no honcho. And I want to hear no more of this horseshit psychology jive. No more turning that boy's head around to prove what a fucking big man you are. You're a lifer like me. Navy's the best thing ever happened to me. I don't want you to fuck me up. You understand?
That's a hell of a fucking tirade. He just gets madder and madder as it goes on, and it was glorious.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem to matter, but he still does what he wants.
It doesn't matter, but it was damn good fucking acting.
Oh, yeah, okay.
In New York, at Penn Station, Badusky picks a fight with some Marines in the bathroom.
Which is where you should fight Marines.
Sure.
Penn Station bathroom, Marines and Navy men.
I do like the detail of the guy that was shaving who just fucking gets out of the bathroom. The face half with shaving cream on it.
What do you suppose that was about? Would you think Badusky just needed to blow off steam? Or he just likes
I think Badusky has ADHD and needs to fuck with things. The trio escapes and hails a cab, and they grab some sandwiches. Badusky declares that Heineken is the greatest beer in the world. What the fuck ever. In a bar, Badusky hustles at darts and gets them an extra $63 in 1973 money, which I didn't check to see how much that is, but it was a lot.
Mm-hmm. It was a lot.
He splits it 3 ways, even though the other two didn't do any of the fucking hustling.
They didn't.
They hear some chanting, so the movie has to do something else now. Hey, I hear chanting. Let's follow that. So they follow it to a basement where they find a group of Nichiren Shoshu Buddhists chanting Namu Myono Renenge Kyo, which I'm pretty sure I'm fucking butchering.
That's close enough.
And testifying that doing so changed their lives in numerous amazingly mundane ways.
Okay, I'm sorry, folks, I'm going to do a tangent. I actually went to a Buddhist ceremony where they were doing the Namu Myono Renenge Kyo, and it was in the penthouse. The same, not the same penthouse, obviously, but in the same building that I think it was the Dakota where John Lennon got shot.
You've told this story on the podcast before.
Okay, well, sharing it again. And we were like, the thing I found most interesting about it, even though they were doing the chant, they brought a little puppets with the strings you can see, and started doing that, acting that out as part of the religious ceremony, which I found hilarious. So that's it. That's my tangent. I've experienced something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and by the way, in that scene, you know who's in there? In that whole church scene, not church scene, Buddhist scene, apparently Gilda Radner's there.
Huh.
Although I couldn't see her, but apparently that's our first role.
Nifty. At an engraving shop, Badusky buys Meadows a bracelet engraved with the new rank of Chief Signalman that he facetiously bestows upon the kid, while Mulhall is, shooting at a game, doing a carnival shooting game.
Mm-hmm.
Then they take the kid ice skating at Rockefeller Center, which, and I cannot stress this enough, is hella expensive nowadays. It's like $50 to get on the ice.
I'm sure it was pretty expensive in 73 money as well.
He chants the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
He chants on the subway, too, which is the least crazy thing that you'll see on a subway. He keeps chanting at a restaurant, which draws the attention of another patron who recognizes it and identifies herself as a fellow chanter. She invites the trio to a party.
This just occurred to me. It's sort of like a Midnight Cowboy.
Yeah.
We'd also get invited to a party. We should hang out at places where we get invited to parties. No one invites us. We hang out all the time in bars. Nobody invites us to parties.
Yeah. I mean, you throw most of the parties.
I throw most of the parties, sure.
At the party, that patron chants a lot with Meadows, Badusky swings and misses at seduction, and Mulhall gets treated as a curiosity for existing while black in the 70s.
Well, to be fair, in that case, I think they were just getting on his case because he was a sailor and the Vietnam War was on, and they blamed the military people for fighting a war that was unjust and terrible and all that.
Yeah, but they were really focused on him being black, too. You're black in the Navy, in Vietnam. How did that work out for you?
You love the Navy.
These are white people who heard Martin Luther King's speech at the March for Jobs, but never read his letter from a Birmingham jail.
I think they just assume, and obviously that hasn't been the case for Mulhall, that, it must have been endlessly racist in the Navy. And of course it was, but apparently for his case, evidently, it was fun. He loved it. He's a lifer.
It can be endlessly racist and be the best thing that ever happened to a black man in the United States.
That's true. They don't have to be diametrically opposite. Did you ever feel like you might become a lifer when you first joined the Navy? Or are you always going to get out?
Well, I didn't really want to stay in, but the Navy made that decision for me when I got fat. It was like a couple of days ago that I was thinking, Jesus Christ, I've lost almost 60 pounds in the last year. And if I knew how to fucking do that back then, I could have been getting a pension now. So, like, I was kind of like, I can't argue too much with it. I couldn't have gotten it because when I got out was right before the economy tanked. So I got a job right before jobs disappeared. So if I'd gotten out when I was slated to, which was about 9 months after I did, then I might not have been able to get a job when I got out. Might have just fucking stayed in. But I would have, I'd be in a better spot right now.
Oh, would you? I mean, who knows? You really don't know what could have happened if you stayed in longer.
I know that having guaranteed income for the rest of my life 5 years ago, which is when I would have retired from the Navy, then that would have set me up pretty good. At breakfast the next morning, Meadows sends his eggs back for not being over easy enough, unprompted, because personal growth and all that. They piss the day away, and at night, ask a cabbie to take them to a GI-friendly brothel. There, Meadows picks a young whore from a lineup.
And that is her title.
Yep.
Young whore. And that young whore is played by Carol Kane, who I finally got to see naked after all these years. Carol Kane we know from Annie Hall and Jawbreaker. We both seen her in Addams Family Values, and I've just seen her in Between the Temples, and also seen her in Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, Dog Day Afternoon, and Carnal Knowledge. And for television, I saw her as Laka's wife in the TV show Taxi.
Yep. This is her fourth movie.
She has been around for a while.
Yep. And I've seen her in The Princess Bride, Scrooged, and Joe versus the Volcano.
Mm-hmm. Oddly, I don't know why I never saw that movie. It's got my name in the title.
Right? I want to put, you told me not to put, I wanted to put it on the list so you'd see it, and then you told me not to for some reason.
Did I?
Maybe.
I may have been joking. I don't care if you put it on the list or not.
As soon as she touches his dick, he comes.
Don't you hate when that happens?
That's never happened to me. I know it sounds like a humble brag, but I do have a problem of it taking too long.
I think fair to him, after he's a young man, so, he's always probably going whether a woman touches it or not. And this is the first time a female's touching. Well, so anybody's touching his pee-pee, so.
Anyone other than him.
Got out of control. Yeah.
Badusky spots him for another go-round. So, while the prisoner refractories, Wheeler Nat Badusky used to be married, but his wife wanted him to be a TV repairman, so that didn't work out.
Interesting thing in the novel, what I read was Badusky is married, he's a secret intellectual, and he's happily married.
Yeah, and has a lovely wife. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know that. Okay, yeah. For some reason, they took it out.
There's also something, like, I don't know exactly what happens, but people survive in the movie that don't survive in the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. After the sex, Meadows offers the rest of the money he has to the lady just to look at her.
Mm-hmm.
Easiest money she made that night.
Indeed.
The next day, they're almost to Portsmouth, so Meadows has one last request. A picnic. Or a last supper, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So, on a frigid winter day, they buy hot dogs, mustard, and charcoal, find a park to grill in, and freeze their asses off.
But they don't have any buns. Can you imagine?
Buns.
How can they have hot dogs, no buns?
And after all that excitement, Badusky waxes to Mulhall about his love of the sea, while Meadows chants his way into breaking a stick. Then Meadows gets up and starts strolling away. When the chasers call after him, he semaphores bye-bye and runs. They chase him down, giving him a bloody forehead in the process.
You think, with those long legs of his, you think he'd be much faster.
Yeah. Finally, they arrive at the brig. Meadows is unceremoniously handed over and dragged away.
They don't even get to say goodbye to him. There's one minute he's standing there, next thing you know, the guards come and get him, and they just look at him being taken up the stairs. Obviously, they want to say something, they don't know what to say, and then he's gone.
Yep. The Marine officer of the deck comes down on them for roughing up their prisoner and asks if they had justification for it, like an escape attempt. The chasers deny that any such thing happened, because that would play out badly for Meadows.
Yeah, and they do like him.
Yeah.
By the way, do you have any idea what would have happened had he escaped? Would they have gotten in any real trouble?
I mean, if he stayed escaped, no, because he'd have escaped. If he escaped and got caught, he'd just be in the brig longer.
No. I know him. I'm talking about the chasers. Jack Nicholson and
they would have gotten. They would have been like, "You lost your fucking prisoner. Fuck you." They gotten like rank removed.
Oh, yeah, okay.
They'd have gotten. It wouldn't have played out very well for them.
The Marine OD is played by Michael Mariotti, who I know from A Long Came a Spider, Hickey and Boggs, and he was one of the DAs on Law and Order TV series. In fact, he was the original DA.
Oh. Then the OD makes a big deal about their paperwork not being in order until the chasers ask to see his XO. The OD signs the paperwork, and Badusky returns the hard time for the OD not remembering to keep his own copy of it. Yeah.
What was this relevant to?
None, it wasn't. It was just,
Okay.
It was to just show that everybody's an asshole. As they walk away from the brig to make their way back to Virginia, they complain about their treatment and hope that they have permanent orders when they get back. The end.
The end. So, I guess I have two questions. Because on the one hand, you ask, does it still work? And on the other, is this interesting? That may be two different things. Because I'll start it off, actually.
Okay.
I think this film works, but it was boring. Just nothing happens. And I don't knock the actors for it. They're acting their hearts out. They're doing what they can, but nothing happens. And as they go from place to place, they meet people, and then they take the guy to jail, which they're doing throughout the entire thing. It doesn't even have a beginning, middle, and end. It seems to just go from the beginning to the end. I guess the middle is them doing all that stuff, but it still all just leads a straight line to him going to jail.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't matter what road they took to get there. It was always going to end there. And they make that point in the movie. Mulhall's like, look, we either let him go and suffer for that, or we take him to jail. And we're not going to let him go. Right. So the movie's like, no, this is going to end with him going to jail. Just remember that this entire time. Yeah, I have to agree. It does work, but who the fuck cares?
The curious thing is that we both remember liking this movie. We both saw it separately years ago, and I remember really enjoying it. And then I'm sitting back going, as you know, I texted you. Does anything actually happen?
I mean, a lot of things happen in the movie, but it's but why? Who's this movie fucking for?
Oh my God, that's such a good question. Who is this?
I think it's for Navy people to just because we wanted to be represented.
Well, you would say it's an accurate depiction of what
I don't know that though, right? Because I will give you them that their representation of the transient personnel barracks was accurate. Having lived that experience for 2 weeks.
Right.
I don't know about the rest of it. I mean, I've done some weird... Okay, thinking about it, I've done some weird fucking shit when I was in the Navy. I got drunk in weird places at times I shouldn't have been getting drunk. I went and visited a fucking whorehouse. I did things in the Navy they did in this movie. So I guess this movie was for me. They got, I think it was 2 Oscar nominations. Maybe again,
3.
it was fucking fantastic. Jack Nicholson, I've never seen him act like this before. Earnestly emotional.
All right.
At the end, he's whining. He is abjectly whining about their treatment. But holy fuck, do I buy it as coming from this character. Him desperately convincing himself that, now we showed him, right? We didn't take that gruff from him without giving him what for in return, right? We aren't just on this road having our lives dictated to us. We have agent. This is a movie of, holy fuck, I'm having a goddamn philosophical moment. This movie is about agency and about who has it and who earned it. And the point of the movie is none of us fucking have any agency. We're all being railroaded by something that we don't have any control over.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's in the film. I don't know. I said it's. I guess I really wasn't bored. I just wish some more stuff had occurred. Something more interesting, I guess, just because you're right. Things happen, but I didn't find them that interesting. I mean, there's a whole scene of them in their boxer shorts in the hotel room trying to open up their beds and go to sleep. This isn't interesting. I'm sorry.
But again, I had the experience of being in a hotel room in a foreign country where I wasn't supposed to be in that hotel room. I was supposed to be back on the fucking ship with a bunch of guys from my ship, hiding 2 of them under the bed because we weren't supposed to have 4 people in the room, and the fucking guy who owns the place coming into the room and dragging our friends out from under the bed. I had a weird fucking hotel moment in the Navy. So I get it.
So we both agree. It's a good movie and it still works.
I'm way more entertained by it now that I'm having this revelation. But, like, it wasn't even that long a movie. It was only 1 hour and 44. It just felt like 2.5. So it worked, but it had pacing issues. We'll leave it.
I think that's a good way. Pacing issues. I'll go with that. The pace could have picked it up a bit, but the performance is good. I don't think it did that well in the box office, but like I said, it got some Academy Award nominations, and the acting is very good. And the thing you picked up for Jack Nicholson, I think what you're saying is that Jack Nicholson can act.
He
and a lot of pictures you see him playing.
He just doesn't sometimes.
And a lot of pictures you see him playing Jack Nicholson. In this one, he's actually playing a character.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough of this. What's up next?
Next week, we will be talking about Dear White People from 2014.
Ah, boy, I should have got on my soapbox about the white folks in that episode. Well, it's no way. Do you remember this picture?
I never watched it.
Okay, I did see it.
And it's one of the youngest movies it's 10 years old now, so we can do it.
We can definitely do it. So I guess that's it for this episode. I'm Joe Dixon. Thanks for listening.
And I'm George Romaka. Thanks for listening indeed, because if a podcast drops and there's nobody around to hear it, it's just another collection of ones and zeros that doesn't matter.
I hate this motherfucking chicken shit eating.
You've been listening to Does This Still Work? Produced by Joe Dixon and George Romaka. The hosts can be reached via social media, email, or the contact page at dtswpod.com. Be good to yourself and others, because that still works.
Whose work we've seen in Chinatown and Mission Impossible. Sorry.
We have not seen Mission Impossible 2.
Mission Impossible 2 in the podcast. I guess that was just me. All right. Do that again.
Did you not see the first Mission Impossible?
I didn't.
Okay. Nope. Then everything's correct.
I am.
Dear Beth, how many nights a week do you think a 14-year-old should go out, and until what time? Dear Beth, I've been going steady for about a year, and last week he asked me to go to bed with him. Dear Beth, my girlfriend, 2 separate words, and I have been dating for over a year, so why are they 2 separate words?